This film was made as part of the Common Cause Research Project, which aims to understand how universities and Black and minority ethnic communities build collaborations. Each of these films tells a different story of how these collaborations might work. They range from long-term partnerships to short-term projects and events. The films are designed to prompt discussion and reflection. We encourage you to ask, what questions might be learned for the future from these stories?
Using photography and interviews to explore how Black and minority ethnic communities in Bristol feel about their local environment.
Challenging the misconception that BAME communities do not engage with green issues.
When Bristol had its Green Capital year, we discovered that there wasn't enough engagement with diverse communities, so I wanted to look into that. And Ujima had some conversations with Bristol University and some other people, and they decided that they needed to do a project to find out why and to engage with diverse communities and build those bridges.
The university and also the Bristol Green Capital Partnership came together with Ujima and said, okay, we see the need for something like this or a project that looks into this some more. Let's have two people to represent the Green and Black initiative.
Zakia's done a master's and I'd done an undergraduate degree, but this kind of research was something that we'd never delved into. So I guess through the networks that Ujima had, they spoke to Bristol University, and Rich Pancost ended up getting involved.
The idea came from discussions that we were having, not just between myself and Jazz and Zakia and our partners, but also really intelligent people around the university who have expertise in this type of thing. And in particular, Helen Manchester in the School of Education was really inspirational.
She did a project working with the elderly community in South Bristol, and she wanted to find a way that would engage them in a way that wouldn't make them feel ostracized from the experiment. And she decided on using something called PhotoVoice.
It's a research method that we didn't necessarily think about before until we had these training sessions and saw how it was used by academic researchers and community members to collaborate and produce data.
We're going to give you this disposable cameras. You're going to take the camera over a period of a week. And I just want you to answer two questions. How do you feel about your environment? Do you like it or do you not like your environment? There's no rules, just answer those questions through photography. We said the word environment kind of expecting like very green spaces to be pictured. But actually, a lot of people took pictures of like the street, of like things that upset them, like rubbish, graffiti.
There's another photo of a gentleman sitting in front of his house playing his guitar with his dog right there, and I just think that's just typical Eastern, typical Bristol. That's what people see, that's their environment. It's not necessarily the thing you would expect to see two women sitting in front of, but it's just like, this is where we live, we blend in.
A key bit of it was to learn, to understand where some of the barriers to inclusion of different BME communities into the green sector arose.
So it'll be interesting to find out why that was their environment and how they feel about those pictures.
They were initiating this as a dialogue, and they had all sorts of approaches. Sometimes it was with people they knew, sometimes it was with community leaders, sometimes with elders. So sometimes, everything from individual to community groups to get a variety of perspectives.
Because it's well enough just speaking it, just saying it all the time, this needs to change, that needs to change. But for people who are involved, I think now they feel that they have a stake in green issues in Bristol.
What does the word collaboration mean to you?
Working together equally.
Where you're able to say, actually, no, I know that is not the best approach. This would be a better approach. Or, that's not what we need to be looking at all.
I think that co-production idea, that culture that we've created within our research relationship has been really integral in making it very supportive?
A lot of people say, oh, community research, no, it's not real, it's not peer reviewed, or there's nothing academic about it. But having the university there has, apart from giving us real training, it's also it's a part of the image, I suppose.
I think this is very unique in how Rich is extremely supportive, and he gives us sort of a seat at the table very equally.
If everyone had a Rich or someone in his position of power but also understands how to work with communities, then we wouldn't have a lot of the social problems that we do have. The Cabot Institute has since then been a lot more open to community collaboration, and they have kind of put themselves into other places through kind of working through us and seeing that, okay, working with community organizations is a good thing. It can be really helpful.
It changes how I think about when I study Earth's climate of 50 million years ago. What does the climate of Earth 50 million years ago have to do with issues around inclusion? Well, it does, because I'm working in sites all around the world, and different communities will have different perspectives on where I'm working, how I'm working, the stories I'm telling. So engage broadly, engage for diversity, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because it will enrich everything you do as an institution.
What was a struggle? Because there are always gatekeepers and people who are always involved, who are always willing to be involved. And quite often, you know what those people think because they tell you all the time. So it was a struggle also to get people involved who are not usually accounted for.
I wish we had a good 18 months to have done the pilot. That's what we're going to end up with, but it was sort of by hook or by crook of little bits of piece of money. Moving ahead, if we really want to do what we want to do, which is create a legacy of ambassadors, create a legacy of leaders. I want 3 years of funding. I want to create cohorts. I want multiple generations of leaders. I want Jazz and Zakiya to know who the next ambassadors are.
Dealing with the aftermath of other research projects from Bristol University, it meant that we couldn't work with certain communities, like the Somali community, because it felt like Bristol University had gone in and done lots and lots of research, and when we went in, they were kind of like, we don't want to speak to you. That was a struggle, and that's something that we're going to have to work towards fixing in Bristol, I think.
It's being looked at. It's almost like a zoo mentality. People have explained it to us. So, you come and look at us. You come and write about us, but we are not involved in any way. And I think the other big issue is that when you do this research, we never know what happens. You don't come back. We don't get a report. We don't see what steps have been taken. So I think those are, for us as community, being invested in the community is a big difference, because for one, we don't want to leave people hanging, because when we go home, we see them.
What was missed? It's not enough to interact once. We need to have an ongoing dialogue and iteration with them, because we were trying to really simplify things with just this very easy access photo approach.
The next question, what was a joy? People just felt like, oh wow, you want me, you need me. So it was a joy saying, we'd love you to do this. You are an expert on this topic. We want we want information from you.
What was a surprise? Things that I consider perfectly natural types of behavior and decisions that were made by us as a university and by the environmental sector with the best will in the world. Just we're so utterly naive. So utterly naive. We would host events in certain restaurants, but then you begin to talk to different people from different communities, and they say, well, these are not restaurants I feel comfortable in. Not because of anything to do with the restaurants or the behavior, but just their perception. That restaurant is posh. That's not the restaurant where I would be welcome.
Hope to have an exhibition. You come and you hear the audio and you see the photos.
It's going to go through all of the communities that we've been able to speak to. I think it's the 10% most deprived wards in Bristol is where we're going to go through there. And we want to engage those communities in these conversations, so not just the participants, but the wider community. And then we'll bring it into the city centre, into some of the bigger venues. We've been very aware of space and where those spaces are, and do people feel strange in those spaces. So we're going to be thinking very carefully about where the exhibition will be.
Do you have a question you'd like to ask Rich now about the project?
I'm going to think about that. How do you feel this project will change the way that you approach working with communities and research?
I never thought about this until you asked the question, but it would be great to kind of profile him and the Cabot Institute for best practices maybe, and then use that as a toolkit to share with other kind of groups.
You know, they're bringing youth into the environmental movement. They're connecting, obviously, the environmental movement to BME communities such. Their role is not just as connectors. It is as provocateurs and challenging existing structures. There is an issue with inclusion in the environmental movement, not because the environmental movement is fundamentally flawed, but because there's an issue of inclusion with all of our structures. What we really hope with the ambassadors is that they're connecting people, but in a way that does not just make everybody feel good about themselves, but actually prompts them to be reflective. And we go back in a year or 2 years and ask them, what have you done differently because of this?
If you are interested in finding out more about the project, please go to the Common Cause website.